branch of power. Second is that the trade deficit that is not true. The United States in the last 15 has a surplus of $410 billion vis-a-vis Brazil. And thirdly, if we're going to charge tax of big tax in Brazil, that's a problem of the Brazilian government. If we charge a high tax and they don't agree, we can establish a negotiation with the government. This is how the world works with multilateralism. That's how the world trade works and how Brazil acts. What we cannot have is a President Trump forgetting that he was elected to govern the U.S. He was elected not to be the emperor of the world. It would be much better to establish a negotiation first and then to reach the possible agreement, because we're two countries that we had very good meetings and we have good relations for 200 years. And so he's breaking away from any protocol, any liturgy that should exist between the relations between two heads of state. It was very unpleasant. We're trying to talk with the people there, but we're also preparing ourselves to give an answer to that. What I've been saying publicly is that we will use all the words that exist in the dictionary in trying to negotiate. If we don't manage to reach an agreement, I can reassure you that we will go to the World Trade Organization, or we can gather a group of countries to respond, or we can use the reciprocity law that was passed, this bill by the National Congress. This is how it's going to work. I regret that two countries that have an historical relationship of 201 years prefer to be fighting through judicial means because one president does not respect the sovereignty of the other president.
Now, Mr. President, apparently President Trump is saying that he, disagrees.
You too. We in this bed.
Agrees with Brazil's investigation and court case against your predecessor, President Bolsonaro. This is what President Trump said. This is nothing more or less than an attack on a political opponent, something I know much about. It happened to me 10 times. What's your response to that?
Well, my answer to that is that the judiciary branch of power in Brazil is independent. The president of the republic has no influence whatsoever with the Supreme Court and the justices. The justices are approved by the Senate. They took office and they have independence, and they take care of our Constitution. Bolsonaro is on trial, not because he's an opponent, a political opposition. I won 3 elections in this country. It's important to remember that every election that I won, I lost 3 previous elections and won another. So we participated in 5 elections, and never before in this country someone would raise this issue to try to say or try to coup d'etat attempt like Bolsonaro did. No, he's not judged personally. He is being judged by the acts. He tried to organize a coup d'etat. He threatened secretly the death. He planned the death of Vice President, myself, and the Chief Justice. He could be on trial just for that. And the Attorney General denounced yesterday he will be convicted, and I believe in that. Christian, I'd like to say something to the American people. If Trump was Brazilian, and if he did what was happening at the Capitol Hill, he'd also be on trial in Brazil, and possibly, and he would have violated the Constitution. According to the justices, he could also be arrested if he had done that here in Brazil.
Well, I have to say at this point, because I have to say that President Bolsonaro denies all these charges. But more to the point, his son, Eduardo, who is I believe...
Go back. Once again, this is Stay Woke TV. I'm your host, Mr. DJ Drumlock, man. How y'all boys doing? This is a YouTube-only stream. I told y'all boys I'm back. On live streaming on YouTube nonstop. I obviously live stream on Twitch nonstop. We're going to start this with an hour probably of YouTube. Then we're going to switch over to Twitch. Thank y'all boys for being here. All right, let me get situated. All right. It takes patience, man. Greatness takes patience, chat. I'm on fucking YouTube, man. Living life good, man. How y'all doing? Y'all get in the chat. Actually, we're going to play some Fortnite, too. Actually, I'm about to do that in like 10 minutes. Let's start off with some Fortnite. And then we'll move on from there. How about that?
Tonight is the Brazilian
Catch me outside. All right.
President Luiz
But let me hear this shit. Brazil talking crazy.
Inácio Lula da Silva, who's come out fighting against President Trump's extraordinary threat of 50% tariffs unless. He's due to address his own nation tonight, and he's given us an exclusive interview while weighing his response to this unprecedented threat from the US. What's more, Trump's tariffs are mostly slapped on nations that have a trade surplus with the US, but Brazil has a trade deficit. So why? Well, Trump says, because I can. But he's also settling scores for Jair Bolsonaro, who was Brazil's president.
First off, let me start with this. Brazil has been one of the leaders leading this BRICS movement. They want it more than everybody on BRICS. So I'm going to say that. For whatever you hear next, put that in your head too. Like, y'all not slick.
During Trump 1.0, and who's facing.
Obviously, BRICS wants to take over the dollar as a new world currency.
Trial.
Which would never happen on
for allegedly
America's dead body. That's the only way that's going to happen.
Attempting to stage a coup against the current President Lula, trying to overturn his 2022 election.
What they're doing to their former president is disgraceful. I know the former president. He fought like hell for the people of Brazil, that I can tell you. And I believe he's an honest man. I think what they're doing to him is terrible.
Bolsonaro, in turn, says he's, quote, passionate about Trump.
I have deep gratitude for him. We had an excellent relationship. We talked about a lot of things around the world. We made plans. It seems we were even dating, with a lot of plans for Brazil. He treated me like a brother. He treats me like a brother. And he put my name in the first line of that letter, right there, my name.
Amid this bromance, the current Brazilian President Lula says it's unacceptable for the USA or any foreign government to interfere in its internal affairs and judicial process. But when he joined me from Brasilia, he also said the best way to discuss any trade issues is around the negotiating table.
He's just saying his opinion.
Mr. President, welcome back to our program.
It's my pleasure, Christian. A great pleasure to talk to you again and direct myself to the American people.
Well, that's a good thing, because I want to ask you first, what does it feel like to be slapped with a 50% tariff by the United States, the world's biggest economy?
Well, Christian, for me, it was a surprise, not only the value of that tariff, but also how it was announced, the way it was announced. I think we're lacking a little bit of multilateralism on President Trump's mindset, and he knows that a problem of this sort, it is solved in a bargaining table, around the bargaining table. So what do we see? We were negotiating with the U.S. already for some months. My foreign affairs minister, the vice president of the Republic, which is also the Minister for Industry and Development and Commerce, were negotiating. And since March, we've sent a proposal to the U.S. government. After 10 meetings, we sent a proposal on May the 16th saying what we wanted and what was a possible for us to reach an agreement. For our surprise, instead of a response to the letter that we sent, we received the news published in the President Trump's site. It was not a letter sent officially by diplomatic means. I think it was a mistake, a big mistake, because the letter that President Trump is full of things that are not true. First of all, the justice system in Brazil is independent. The president of the republic cannot interfere in the judicial branch of power. Second is that the trade deficit is not true. The United States in the last 15 has a surplus of $410 billion vis-a-vis Brazil. And thirdly, if we're going to charge tax of big tax in Brazil. That's a problem of the Brazilian government. If we charge a high tax and they don't agree, we can establish a negotiation with the government. This is how the world works with multilateralism. That's how the world trade works and how Brazil acts. What we cannot have is a President Trump forgetting that he was elected to govern the U.S. He was elected not to be the emperor of the world. It would be much better to establish a negotiation first and then to reach the possible agreement, because we're two countries that we had very good meetings and we have good relations for 200 years. And so he's breaking away from any protocol, any liturgy that should exist between the relations between two heads of state. It was very unpleasant. We're trying to talk with the people there, but we're also preparing ourselves to give an answer to that. What I've been saying publicly is that we will use all the words that exist in the dictionary in trying to negotiate. If we don't manage to reach an agreement, I can reassure you that we will.
Let me put my first comment. CNN ain't gonna save you.
Go to the World Trade Organization, or we can gather a group of countries to respond, or we can use the reciprocity law
Snitch ass nigga.
that was passed, this bill by the National Congress. This is how it's going to work. I regret.
You are a snitch, nigga. And you've been fucking with the ops. Get your ass out of here.
That two countries that have an historical relationship of 201 years prefer to be fighting through judicial means because one president does not respect the sovereignty of the other president.
You been fucking with the ops, nigga. You gonna have to pay, Brazil.
Now, Mr. President, apparently President
If you
Trump
wanna do
is
business with us, you gotta pay.
saying that he, disagrees with Brazil's investigation and court case against your predecessor, President Bolsonaro. This is what President Trump said. This is nothing more or less than an attack on a political opponent, something I know much about. It happened to me 10 times. What's your response to that?
Well, my answer to that is that the judiciary branch of power in Brazil is independent. The president of the republic has no influence whatsoever with the Supreme Court and the justices. The justices are approved by the Senate. They took office and they have independence and they take care of our constitution. Bolsonaro is on trial, not because he's an opponent, a political opposition. I won 3 elections in this country. It's important to remember that every election that I won, I lost 3 previous elections and won another. So we participated in 5 elections, and never before in this country someone would raise this issue to try to say or try to coup d'etat attempt like Bolsonaro did. No, he's not judged personally. He is being judged by the acts. He tried to organize a coup d'etat. He threatened secretly the death. He planned the death of Vice President, myself, and the Chief Justice. He could be on trial just for that. And the Attorney General denounced yesterday he will be convicted, and I believe in that. Christian, I'd like to say something to the American people.
Oh, okay, that's what's going on in Brazil. It's a fucking power grab. That's why they've been going crazy lately. Okay.
If Trump was Brazilian,
China China go save them.
and if
Russia go save them.
he did what was
They
happening
better come save you because you on your own.
at the Capitol Hill, he'd also be on trial in Brazil, and possibly, and he would have violated the Constitution. According to the justices, he could also be arrested if he had done that here in Brazil.
Well, I have to say at this point, because I have to say that President Bolsonaro denies all these charges. But more to the point, his son, Eduardo, who is I believe, a member of your parliament, he has been in the United States lobbying for sanctions, but he was calling for sanctions against the Supreme Court justice. Then Trump turns around, having thought about it, and in fact puts sanctions on your whole country of 200 million people in terms of this 50% tariff. Your opponents have been, Bolsonaro has been trying to get this result, and they want you to drop the charges.
Well, first of all, it's not the President Lula that is charging Bolsonaro. It's the prosecutor's office, and the Supreme Court is the one that will rule. It's important to remember, Christian, that I was put on trial with this same court, this same Supreme Court, that I lost 3 previous elections in this country, and I never raised any issue. I prepared myself for the next election if I lost one. He knew that he was going to lose the election. When I was in jail, the polls said that I would win the future election. Now he's saying that he was stealed, and then he tried on a coup d'etat, and then as a coward, he fled to the U.S. before my inauguration without handing over power. So this is a country that deserves respect, and President Trump has to respect the sovereignty of this country, the sovereignty of the Supreme Court, the sovereignty of the legislative body of power, the executive branch of power, as I respect U.S. sovereignty. It's important to remember that the super tariff will also create problems for the American consumer, for the American people, not only for the Brazilians. I'm going to try to solve the problems here in Brazil. We're talking with the business sectors.
We don't care, fam.
With the agricultural producers, with the fishermen, with the trade unions.
Y'all been colluding with the ops. Who the heck Brazil think they is? Y'all not fooling nobody.
We're going to find a solution, and we will give a response, not by sight. We'll send an official letter through diplomatic letters from the President of the Republic of Brazil to President Trump to know that respect is something very good, and I like to show respect, and I like to receive respect.
As you know, President Trump has threatened big tariffs at 50% at one point on China. Then they walked
on August 12th, 2000,
on
the
one
Russian
point,
submarine
on
Kursk
Colombia, and Colombia then agreed
a
to Trump's
giant
demands
of the seas,
on
disappeared into the cold waters of the Barents Sea.
deportees. People and countries do not want to provoke President Trump because they think that it will be even worse for themselves and their economies. What is your economic plan
Russia would
B
eventually of October
if you
exercise.
don't agree to what President Trump is demanding, and if you get hit with a 50%?
That
Who's your
respect is
market?
something
How do you
very-
survive?
Well, Christian, first of all, if I resent to respond to what is my strategy, no, it's not going to work. So I can't tell you my strategy. What we're discussing, I just wanted to tell you something, Christian. In 2.5 years of my term, I created 379 new markets for Brazilian goods and service. I've been traveling a lot abroad, and we'll reach an agreement with the European Union. We'll have an agreement with the countries from ASEAN, and an agreement with the Latin American country. We'll talk with Mexico, and we're going to try to seek for new trade partners. But we will still take
You see this shit?
Next, the city of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil is hosting a BRICS summit this Sunday. The grouping is made up of 11 economies, including Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The countries are expected to denounce U.S. President Donald Trump's trade tariffs, saying they are illegal and risk hurting the global economy. For more on that, our international affairs editor, Ketevan Gojestani, joins me on set. Ketevan, so the Chinese President Xi Jinping will be absent at the conference.
Diplomatic issue there where Narendra Modi.
Brazil. Guess we'll see how it comes. We'll see.
The Indian Prime Minister is sort of the guest of honor, and Xi Jinping didn't want to be upstaged. While for the Russian President Vladimir Putin, that is because he's under an international
News. The UK and Germany have signed this afternoon a treaty on trade and security, which the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer says is the first of its kind between the two countries. The agreement, which will be known as the Kensington Treaty, spells out a threat to one country will be seen as a threat to the other. That is being seen as an implicit warning to Russia. Putting all that into context, Germany is now the third largest supplier of military hardware to Ukraine, which has angered Moscow. Also in the deal, steps to strengthen commercial ties, a new partnership on scientific research, talk of improved rail connections. And crucially important to Sir Keir Starmer, there will be several measures Germany will adopt that may help stem the flow of
Germany and NATO? Oh, must not be.
illegal migration. Here's what the Prime Minister...
Actually, they probably wouldn't trust Germany and NATO. Actually. Let me see. Yeah, Germany is a member of NATO. So it's a weird thing. Why do?
Minister said after the signing.
It's a privilege to have you here today, particularly to sign this Kensington Treaty, which is a very special treaty because it's the first of its kind ever, if you can believe it, between our two countries. And I see it very much as evidence of the closeness of our relationship as it stands today, the strength of our values, the strength of our joint approach, but also very much as a statement of intent, a statement of our ambition to work ever more closely together, closest of allies, and whether that's on defence, security, trade, the economy, energy, covers so much in this treaty. And so this is a really historic signing of a historic agreement.
Sir Keir Starmer, historic indeed. It's the first time they've signed a treaty of this size since 1945, a point I put to our political correspondent, Rob Watson.
It is quite remarkable, and both sides are making a lot of that. It's worth bearing in mind.
It's weird because I think both countries are in NATO.
Though, of course, Christian, that they have until recently both been members of the European Union, with all of the closeness that entailed in terms of market cooperation, customs union, and they are, of course, both members, long-standing members of NATO, the main defence alliance. So, you know, there is a certain amount of spin going on with this, but absolutely, it's a proper treaty, and what Downing Street is saying. A certain
amount of spin is like, nigga, we're involved in NATO. If you attack one, you attack all, right? So, what is this? This doesn't make really anything.
Is that the 29 pages of the treaty essentially cover cooperation on issues ranging from migration and security to sort of business and commerce.
The signing ceremony has already taken place. It is usual in these circumstances for the teams to put everything on paper before the two men get together, so that's not entirely surprising. But they did just say during this sit-down that there's an awful lot to discuss this afternoon. Where are the sticking points between the two sides?
Well, do you know, with issues such as and the European has to be worked out on how any
Chancellor Merz that they're going to up defence spending quite considerably, up to about 350 billion.
Interesting. I want to learn more about Brazil.
Good. And I like to show respect, and I like to receive respect.
As you know, President Trump has threatened big tariffs at 50% at one point on China. Then they walked that back. 50% on one point on Colombia, and Colombia then agreed to Trump's demands on deportees. People and countries do not want to provoke President Trump because they think that it will be even worse for themselves and their economies. What is your economic plan B if you don't agree to what President Trump is demanding, and if you get hit with the 50%? Who's your market? How do you survive?
Well, Christian, well, first of all, if I respond to what is my strategy, no, it's not going to work. So I can't tell you my strategy. What we're discussing, I just wanted to tell you something, Christian.
He's a politician. What did you expect?
You know,
He doesn't have a plan.
in 2.5 years of my term, I created
His plan
379
is bricks, man. His plan is bricks. Okay, that's his plan. Tell them boys to come save you, man. That's it, man.
new markets for Brazilian goods and service. I've been traveling a lot abroad, and we'll reach an agreement with the European Union. We'll have an agreement with the countries from Asia and an agreement with the Latin American country. We'll talk with Mexico, and we're going to try to seek for new trade partners. But we will still take into account the importance that the U.S. has for us.
Nah. Nah, you're not slick. Enjoy. Tell them boys to come save you.
Never imagine to pick up
Like niggas talking out of both sides of his mouth. Then he's even saying he's about to go snitch to the United Nations, to the International Trade Commission. Man, get your ass out of here, man.
a fight with the U.S. Never. You know very well I had an extraordinary relationship with all the former presidents since Clinton to Bush, Obama, and to Biden. And I hope to have a good relation with President Trump, too. Now, what is important to take into account is that it's necessary to respect the sovereignty of each country. We have to respect what is happening inside a country.
Same thing. This is the same thing Russia been saying. Y'all been listening to Russia too much.
To talk about deforestation in Brazil, Brazil is the country.
Just because of sovereignty doesn't mean you freaking go and you destroy the other country so you can feel safe. That's freaking crazy. It's a madman talking.
That takes more seriously the climate change issue. We have diminished 50% of deforestation in the Amazon tropical forest. And my commitment till 2030 is to have zero deforestation in the Amazon. And I hope that President Trump will come to COP30 because it's going to be in the heart of the Amazon. And so he will come to get the rainforest of the Amazon. And first of all, we're going to find out if the leaders are talking seriously, if they're really concerned when they come to COP30. I want to see if the world leadership is understanding that the scientists are right when they say, or they'll think that it's just a lie and that's not happening. This is what we have to find out at COP30, because the rich countries promised in Copenhagen in 2009 to create a 100 billion fund per year to help the developing countries, the poor countries, and up till now, nothing came out from that fund. Now it's already $1.3 trillion, this fund, if it was updated. So, Cristiane, what I believe is that my political life I was born as a negotiator. I was a trade union leader. I went on strikes. I had many workers' assembly, but everything ended at a bargaining table. It's at the bargaining table that we solve the issues, and it's at the bargaining table. It's much more cheaper than going to war. It's much more cheaper to have confrontation. You don't destroy anything.
You hear this? You hear this? I'm not saying nothing. He's saying it. Man, y'all boys. Tell them boys to come save you, nigga.
Under negotiation. But we won't have any death tolls. No one dies under negotiation table. This country that is talking to you is a peaceful country. We have no litigation whatsoever with any country in the world, and we don't want to have litigation with any country. We want to solve the problem around a negotiation table. That's why we sent on May the 16th the proposals for the U.S. government.
You talk and you remind us all that you were a negotiator. So is President Trump. He likes to call himself a great deal maker. Surely that means the two presidents, you and he, should have room to be able to sort this out. But, you are left-wing progressive, he is right-wing, and all of that. Maybe your politics just don't match, but there's something that's going on between you all. You have said that Brazil's trade with the US represents 1.7% of your total GDP. It's not like we cannot survive without the United States. That's what you told Brazilian television this week. Do you think that your country...
There's nothing else to talk about. Bet. Tell them other countries to save you.
And maybe others, like the BRICS and other countries, are going to be able to Trump-proof, in other words, to set up a separate market or whatever it is to protect against these kinds of unilateral tariffs from the United States?
Well, Christian, let me say to you something very bluntly. I'm not a progressive president. I am the president of Brazil. I don't see President Trump as a far-right president. I see him as the president of the U.S. He was elected by the American people. So it doesn't matter if I like him or not like him in terms of his ideology. What matters is that he's the president of the U.S. and I'm president of Brazil. And it's me and him. And so the best thing in the world is for us to sit around a table and talk. That would be the best thing in the world. But now he has demonstrated that he's not interested because he thinks he can do whatever he wants with the tariffs. The second issue is that no one who wants to break away from the U.S., no one wants to be free of the U.S. What we want is not to be a hostage of the U.S. We want freedom. We don't want to be a hostage of the U.S. We want freedom for the trade. And so it's important to remember that we represent 40% of the international trade in the world. And it's important to remember that we have 25% of the world GDP. And besides that, we have almost half of the world's population.
Tell them boys to help you. Tell Russia, tell your BRICS homeboys to come save you, bro, because y'all gonna need them.
Population. And so we don't want to pick up a fight with anybody. The BRICS was not created to fight with any country. The BRICS was created so that we that consider ourselves equally discuss in a peaceful manner our issues. This is how we seek peace in Ukraine. That's how we
She's freaking shaking her head. Yes.
sought peace in Gaza. That's how we want peace.
It's horrible, bro. CNN is not, that shit is not an American company. That's an overseas company.
In the African continent, especially in Congo.
Somebody overseas done bought CNN.
Brazil does not want to feed any war or participate in war. Brazil wants peace and negotiate. It's important that the U.S. government should know that.
Okay, so I want to ask you whether you might feel any sympathy or have any advice for President Trump when it comes to President Putin. You've just talked about wanting peace in Ukraine, and you spoke to President Putin when you went to commemorate the end of World War II in Moscow just this year. You have suggested that you could mediate, but you have also seen that President Trump tried to talk sense.
We've seen all that. We on Brazil. Yeah, we on y'all ass, Brazil.
To Putin, tried to look like, a negotiator and a mediator.
Y'all not slick. I'm being serious, though. Y'all not slick, bro. It's not even y'all. I'm talking about the leadership. They've been playing like literally doing business with the enemies.
Mediator and Putin.
Crazy. He crazy. But then again, not only doing business, they made up a fund to dethrone the dollar.
Is absolutely.
You didn't think you were going to get taxed?
He failed to respond. In fact, done the exact opposite. And Trump is getting very frustrated. You haven't had any success with Putin either in terms of ending this war. What advice do you have now to President Trump and to yourself and to anybody else who wants to try to end this bloody war?
I was very happy when President Trump said that he was going to negotiate with this war, the end of the war with Putin. I was happy with that. Although I have divergence with Trump, I was happy that President Trump was willing to stop the war. Now, this week, I heard that he's going to sell more arms. The world is very strange, Christian. The world has increased. The NATO countries increased in 5% of their GDP military spending to buy arms. And we have 733 million people that are dying of hunger. And other.
You hear him, right? And the truth, okay. Yes, let it out. I want to hear more.
That don't have medical.
Tell me the Russian plans that they've been telling you. Good.
Assistance. Other millions don't have what?
The Russia propaganda is working.
Drinking water and don't have basic sanitation. So all this money that is being carried to buy weapons should be carried to end poverty, extreme poverty in the world. And when the extreme poverty countries develop themselves, they can buy from the rich country, but not even this idea they can understand. So I believe that it would be important to understand there are no interlocutor to solve the peace issue. It's necessary that UN should take over the coordination. UN has to take the coordination, and Putin and Zelensky agree with that, to have a coordination of a group of countries that are friends that could develop an alternative proposal to what they want. Otherwise, this war will not have an end. And I hope sincerely that President Trump, instead of selling more weapons, he be more careful to try to reach peace. He has the strength, the force to do that. The same thing, I think, President Xi Jinping. He can be more active and more influential with Putin. So if you don't have interlocutors, the war will continue. It's like Gaza. What's going on in Gaza? Netanyahu doesn't show any respect for anybody. He doesn't respect the UN, the US. He doesn't respect anybody, anything. Netanyahu is now predestined to continuing government, and to continuing government, he needs to go to war. He has to kill a lot of children. This is the world that we want. Is this the world we want? The US.
If you trust Brazil, you crazy as hell. Nobody trusts Brazil.
This is part of the UN Security Council. China is part of the
on BRICS don't even trust them.
UN Security Council. Russia is part of the UN.
They might trust them a little bit.
Of the Security Council. France and England. Where are they now? What are they doing? What is the UN Security Council doing now? And the full members of the UN Security Council, what are they doing? They don't solve anything. Who are they listening to? Who are they talking? Every day I read the newspaper. Someone asked for ceasefire, and the next day Netanyahu kills more women and children there. And now he's just killed children that were trying to seeking for food and not for weapons. Where is the world governance that has to intervene? We need a world governance that should be done by the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. All these 5 countries, they have weapons, nuclear weapons, and all of them are involved in wars. And the US invaded Iraq without consulting the UN. France and England invaded Libya without consulting the UN. And Putin invaded Ukraine without consulting the UN. And the Gaza war, there's no
I really understand now. Brazil is so like small, it doesn't really even know what's going on. Nobody even lets it know what's really going on.
With the UN.
Not saying anything he's saying is not true, but nigga, there's always reasons for the shit you just saying.
Then either. So Christianity
kids for no reason, nigga. It's conflict. And you probably don't understand it because your country is never in conflicts.
We're lacking world governance. We're lacking global governance. I think that the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council should gather and say, we have to change the UN Security Council because we're not having the competence to solve the issues. Let's have another governance. And then we have to have representation from Latin America, from Asia, from the Middle East, and Germany, Japan has to join the UN Security Council. Let's change. Let's change to see if we can establish at least hope that the world will have more peace than war.
I understand. We want more peace. There's no doubt about it. So I want to ask you finally, what are you going to tell your people when you speak to them in a national address about the current crisis? It's been described as the worst crisis between the United States and Brazil in more than a decade. What are you going to say to your people?
Olha, eu ainda não vejo crise, Cristiano.
I don't see a crisis yet. Sincerely, I think that in negotiation, that's how it works. Each one says what they want, and each one listens what they have to listen. But what is important is that the relationship between the 2 countries cannot go on like this. I don't consider myself an emperor to make a decision and publish on the newspaper. That's not how I work. That's impossible. And now President Trump to write a letter and putting as a condition, a precondition for negotiation, no. Okay. That's very discretionary. I can't even believe in that. When I read the letter, I thought it was fake news when I saw the letter through the media. And then I thought it was a true letter that was signed by President Trump. So I can reassure you that Brazil, in the right moment, will give the right answer to the President Trump's letter. And in my address to the Brazilian people, I'm going to tell the Brazilian people what I'm thinking about all this. And sincerely, I can reassure you that Brazil does not enjoy troublemakers. and trouble. Brazil likes to negotiate in peace. And that's how I act. And I think that's how all presidents should act. And this is, I think about President Trump too. That Brazil
Have to do with tariffs.
is an historic ally of the U.S. Brazil praises the economic relations that Brazil has with the U.S., but Brazil will not accept anything imposed on it, on the country. We accept negotiation and not imposition.
President Luiz Inácio da Silva of Brazil, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Obrigado a você, Cristiano.
Well, thank you, Christian. And I hope, sincerely, I hope, Christian, that President Trump make a review and revise his opinion.
As he
My
talks,
first-
he's inviting countries that are literally our ops to his country to make a brand new currency. Like, man, bro, shut up, fam. Shut up, bro. Ain't nobody listening to what this nigga gotta say, man.
Always
Man sitting there agreeing with him, bro. Sitting there crazy, bro.
My first guest tonight is the Brazilian President Luiz Inácio.
Sitting crazy. You know Trump's gonna say something.
Kelly Levitt just addressed the president's health. What did she say? What should we know?
Well, this is striking in the sense that he has a chronic insufficiency of blood flow, and this has been exhibited in the president noticing some swelling in his ankles, also addressed bruising on his hands. There have been photos that have circulated on social media showing the president's hands, back of his hand with makeup, and in some instances people noting the size of his ankles, an apparent degree of swelling. And so they acknowledge mild swelling in his lower legs is what they describe it. They say through regular medical care. Of course, there's a medical unit at the White House, a doctor on call. They did a variety of tests, and they have diagnosed this chronic condition. They say it is not the more serious type of condition like deep vein thrombosis, and it is not a sign of a deeper heart problem. But again, anyone of the president's age, he is 79 as of last month, and obviously in a very high profile and pressured job.
79-year-old president, that's crazy.
Any update on the president's health is notable. So we will stay on this. They say he is taking a regimen of aspirin, which many people do for cardiovascular care. So more as we learn it about what this condition is and what it means.
We thank you for watching, and remember
Jeffrey Epstein. Let's hit the Jeffrey Epstein stuff because it's going to be about 15 seconds, and then we'll get the health news on Trump, which is going to take a whole lot longer to cover. So regarding
there saying that he was evaluated by the White House medical unit after questions and after the president noticed some swelling in his legs, and they
They like my comment. They're not gonna save you though. They could try to go see it then.
Trump's Brazil tariff threat is part of a bigger geopolitical dispute, and he's trying to find a way. Rob, if you got a clip on this one, if you want to pull it up, I think you do. If you can go to this is about the Brazil thing on page 7. So let me read this to you because this is when it's getting tricky. But I like what he's doing. Go for it, Rob.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe at some point I'll talk to him. Right now, I'm not. They're treating President Bolsonaro very unfairly. He's a good man. You know, I know him well. I negotiated with him. He was a very tough negotiator, and I can tell you he was a very honest man, and he loved the people of Brazil. He was a very tough guy to negotiate with. I shouldn't like him because he was very tough in negotiation, but he was also very honest. And I know the honest ones, and I know the crooked ones.
Pause right there. So President Trump threatened a 50% tariff on Brazil. driven by his support for Bolsonaro and frustration with Brazil rolling BRICS coalition, which he views as a threat due to its push for reserve currency alternative to the U.S. dollar. Trump wrote on Truth Social, this is nothing more or less than an attack on political opponents, something I know a lot about, and accused Brazil of issuing hundreds of secret and unlawful censorship orders on U.S. social media platforms. The decision followed by BRICS Summit in Rio de Janeiro, which Mauricio Caron, a close ally to Secretary Marco Rubio and Trump's former special envoy Latin, said tipped the scale. And obviously, while this is going on, there's a bunch of other decisions being made with New York Times even came out on a story talking about behind Trump's decision to tax Brazil, José Bolsonaro, Eduardo Bolsonaro, his son, good guy, 41 years old. He's a sitting Brazilian congressman and son of Bolsonaro, has been lobbying U.S. officials, claiming the Brazil Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, not a good guy, is targeting him and his father for fighting a stolen election, prompting Trump to post online, this is nothing more or less than an attack on a political opponent, something I know a lot about, which happens to me times 10. And so they're driving this. Now, obviously, Trump's decision to impose tariffs, described by Steve Bannon as I love it, and a more move even he hadn't considered was made alone, according to two people familiar with the private meeting, with Bannon stating, if you drop the trial and drop the charges, the tariffs go away. Tom, your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Both the New York Times and Politico, want to call it tariffs because they could point at the president. Well, screw you both. Screw you both, Politico and New York Times, because you know the word you should be using here? You should be using three words: economic sanctions and leadership. When around the world countries behave badly, the United States has shown up with these two words, economic sanctions, and it's because of leadership. And that's exactly what the president is doing here. Oh, more tariffs going to create problems, more tariffs. The tariff is merely a tool of the economic sanction, and tariffs have been part of economic sanctions forever. There's two big things in your arsenal you can use. You can use a blockade, and you can use tariffs, which cuts off oxygen to the economy of the party that's offending. Like when, Iraq invades Kuwait, and you're like, India.
On Truth Social on Wednesday, accusing Brazil government of attacking free speech. Arabica coffee prices in New York climbed more than 3.5% on Thursday morning, later settled around 2.5% higher. Stated in a letter posted on Truth Social on Wednesday, climb after Trump threatens 50%, 4%.
An entire Brazilian panel on it. Why is it so important to you? Because there's multiple countries in Latin America. We hopefully keep them from going the way of El Salvador or Mexico or Guatemala, these countries that are coming here. Lula, socialist.
I don't know who's in the car. Watch all of them. The number, this guy was a Vinny, did you security with us? The security pulling out more resulting in a 40% decrease in rent prices in Buenos Aires, achieved Argentina's first budget surplus in 14 years, delivered 7.6% year-over-year GDP growth in Q2 of 2025, and guess who is trying to do all the policies that he fixed in New York City? A guy named Mamdani. The future looks bright hats that are the ones that never stay on the shelves, and Milei becomes the first libertarian president. Leftists freak out. 1.5 years later, this is what the numbers look like. Brought monthly inflation down from 25.5% to 1.5%, a 5-year low. Brought the poverty rate down to an estimated 33.7%, 6-year low. Scrapped rent controls, resulting in a 40% decrease in rent prices in Buenos Aires. Achieved Argentina's first budget surplus in 14 years. Delivered 7.6% year-over-year GDP growth in Q2 of 2025. And guess who is trying to do all the policies that he fixed in New York City? A guy named Mamdani. The future looks bright hats that are the ones that never stay on the shelves, and you guys ask for more.
Juan Dipi Meli appeared in court for motions. The judge slams the state for filing a petition to get a higher court to review his rulings. The state is desperately trying to delay this trial. They've even gone to a higher court to have them review the judge's rulings on compelling Detective Luna to answer questions and the stay being lifted. They want this trial delayed. You're going to see what the judge does. The defense is not happy too in this video. Hit subscribe. Let's go. All right, first thing we got here is state's motion to stay July 9th, 2025 order setting trial for September 10th. So they want to delay the trial is what this is. The state is playing games, man. They give a summary of what's happened. Defendant filed a motion eliminating to keep out the promotional video. The state filed a response to defense motion about the promotional video. A hearing was held on defense promotional video on January 1924. Court entered an order suppressing the promotional video clip from being entered into evidence. And then the whole appeal started with this whole promotional video nonsense. Notice of appeal, notice of cross appeal was filed, blah, blah, blah. July 9th, the court heard the state's motion for rehearing retrial date of September 10th and ordered the lifting of the stays, automatic stays allowing the trial to proceed on September 10th, 25. The state subsequently consulted with its appellate unit, as well as the Office of the Attorney General. It is the state's intent to seek appellate remedy in regards to both of these orders pursuant to Florida Rule of Appellate Procedure 9.030B2A. The state has ordered expedited transcripts and court records. The state is seeking a stay for until the appeal is resolved and the 4th DCA issues its mandate. So they're using this as a way to delay the trial, pretty much. Or they want to use it like that. I don't think the judge is going to do it. An appeal by the state from a pretrial order shall stay the case against each defendant upon whose application the order was made until the appeal is determined. If the trial court determines that the evidence, confession, or admission that is the subject of the order would materially assist the state in proving its case against another defendant, and the prosecuting attorney intends to use it into the Raven Liberty investigation. December 24, they learned of the Apple search warrants, blah, blah, blah. Defendant filed motions to compel the testimony. The court granted the defense motion to compel, as it pertains to the ongoing investigation, as well as to turn over the affidavit for an in-camera review. The state subsequently...
Yes, sir. Okay, so that takes care of Mr. Henry. Mr. Mathis is Mr. Barris's client, so let me just skip on that one for a second. So the bottom of page 2, I got a state motion to stay the July 9th order setting the trial on September the 10th. I got the state's motion to stay order compelling Detective Luna to answer certified questions and to stay the order compelling the affidavit to Apple iCloud that I previously ordered to be disclosed to me. And then lastly, I got a defense motion to require the state to divulge the existence of other search warrants involving Attorney Raven Liberty.
For the channel, please hit subscribe. I appreciate the support. Back to the video, boys.
I did read the motions as well as all the authority and the rules cited therein. I also read the state's petition for writ of certiorari that was filed with the 4th District Court of Appeals on July 14th, 2025.
So what he just said right there, the state filed a petition for writ of certiorari, which is basically they want a higher court to review his decisions that he's made. The judge. They think he's wrong about the open investigation, forcing Detective Luna to answer all questions at depositions. Because remember, he granted their motion to compel Detective Luna.
Let's just take them in order. State the motion to stay.
The judge. They think he's wrong about the open investigation, forcing Detective Luna to answer all questions at depositions. Because remember, he granted their motion to compel Detective Luna.
Let's just take them in order. State the motion to stay the order compelling Detective Luna to answer certified questions in order compelling affidavit to Apple iCloud. Anything else that you want to tell me in support of the motion?
No, I think the court's aware of the motion and the fact that the state was house officer.
All right, defense, your position on their request.
I think you already ruled it.
I wonder what he's going to do here because, I mean, they're kind of saying you're wrong again to his face. They want the stay. They want the trial to be delayed.
On this one, I'm going to grant it in part and deny it in part. Okay, I still want you to turn it over to me. So that order, I denied it to that. I want you to turn the affidavit over to me. As to the first part that I ordered the detective to answer the questions, that's the sole issue that's been raised in this petition for writ of certiorari to the 4th DCA. They are seeking review of the trial court's order compelling the state to permit the deposition of an investigator in an ongoing, wholly separate investigation. At the conclusion of their petition, page 27, it says, the state respectfully requests that this honorable court grant the petition of writ of certiorari and quash the trial court's order compelling Detective Luna's testimony, and thus preserving the integrity of the unrelated ongoing criminal investigation. So as to her testimony only, because you're going to turn the affidavit over to me, state paragraph 7 of your motion, you're asking me to be stayed for 30 days?
Yes, Judge. I think we have 30 days to file our appeal, and hopefully that the court will give us an answer then, or they'll say it if they're taking further consideration.
So over the defense objection, and I certainly understand the defense's objection, I think I'm compelled to grant that part at least for 30 days that the state's asking for. Of course, pending.
All right, boys, summer is here, and the one thing you don't want to be doing is stuck inside cooking all day. And that's where factor. So 30 days, so August 16th. is when the stay is going to be lifted now? Is that what he's saying?
I believe he already ruled on that particular issue.
Yeah, I did.
And what I suggest Your Honor consider is that opposed to staying, I'd like to take a position for 30 days. We'll wait. We won't wait, but depending upon what the fourth DCA does, and usually they act on writs like this rather quickly. I would ask Your Honor not to stay for a 30-day period. We'll agree to wait a week to set her down for
You want me to stay for 30 days or for when we hear from the fourth DCA, whichever date arrives sooner? And that's fine with me. If they deny this, it's fine. You can take your depo the next day.
Exactly.
Because I already ordered that you could.
Yes.
But if they're going to tell me they're the higher authority, and if they're going to tell me I got that one wrong, I guess that's what they'll say. But I don't think so. She's an A witness. But do that as okay.
He's still saying she's an A witness. She has to answer all questions at a deposition.
Judge, while they're doing that, I just have one thing on the record. Your Honor has acknowledged, Your Honor had looked at the writ that they filed, the state file, or the AG file in the fourth. I read it a couple times last night, and I was aghast at disingenuousness for them not even telling the fourth that Your Honor made a ruling and defined what an ongoing investigation was and denied there's an ongoing investigation. So the fourth, looking at that paper, will not even know what your ruling is until somebody else brings it to their attention.
Holy shit. The state playing dirty, like always. They're not providing all the details to the 4th District Court. And look at the judge shaking his head up and down like, yep, I know.
I don't know that I necessarily disagree with that, but my opinion on it is
Understood.
Yeah, I read it. All right, so that's that one. So the order, that's going to be granted in part. It's denied as follows. I still want the state to turn over the affidavit in support of the warrants to me, so I can have them and review them. And if we get a ruling from the 4th DCA, I can distribute those accordingly. It stayed only as to the deposition of Detective Linda Hellinger to answer those questions for a period of 30 days, or in the alternative, until we hear from the 4th District Court of Appeal, whichever of those dates comes sooner. All right, the state's motion to stay the trial date, September the 10th. State, anything else you want to tell me today?
No, Judge, same issue. Just so the court, my understanding is that the Attorney General is also going to be petitioning the court through the open appeal to stay the lower proceedings.
Your Honor has already ruled on that.
Did you just hear that? The Attorney General also wants to delay the trial. That's what they just said.
Yeah, so at this point, the state's motion to stay the September 10th trial date, that's going to be denied because there is no pending appeal right now. If that changes, if they file something, as they did with this, they'll come back and see me. I'm not prejudging anything in the future, but right now, the only relief that's been sought by the 4th DCA, to the 4th DCA, with regard to Detective Luna's testimony being compelled, nothing else. So the state motion to stay my order setting the September 10th, 2025 trial date, that one respectfully is going to be denied. I'll enter the appropriate written order. Both cases remain set for trial September the 10th. Lastly,
Boom. Let's go, boys. Melly looks a little confused or worried here. I think he's looking for family or something. I'm not sure. Not delaying the trial. Can you imagine? I mean, I still can't believe the state is trying to do this. They're still trying to delay this trial. His first trial was over 2 years ago. This is crazy to me.
Defense, the motion to require the state to divulge the existence of other search warrants involving Attorney Raven Liberty. Did read the motion. I think that's just requires a yes or no answer from the state. Is there anything else you want to say?
Well, it does require a yes or no, but if there's more than one, at least the number of the warrants, because the last warrant, or the only warrant, petitioned in 23.
Yeah,
or 23. So they may have issued warrants on her 24 and also 25. So we'd like to know the number of warrants.
Isn't this crazy? The defense had to file a motion to find out how many warrants there are on one of the defense lawyer's phones. It's baffling.
The state got up here and exhaustively argued the last time we were before Your Honor that this is a different case, this new case of the investigation of Ms. Liberty. I just want to bring it to the court's attention that it is an allegation of witness tampering. That's what the allegation is in what little we were able to see. What witnesses are being tampered with? I would bet.
They had to handle this. So you want me to put 5 days on that then?
I'll have an answer. Honestly, I think I'll have an answer by the end of the day if you just give me until tomorrow at the very least.
Okay, so the defense motion is granted over the state's objection. Indeed to disclose, that's a yes or no. And if so, how many additional warrants have been sought involving Attorney Raven Liberty, and that's due by the close of business.
All right, let's play some Fortnite.
No more investigations into Epstein. No special prosecutor. Trump is tripling, quadrupling down on the idea that it's all a big hoax, despite a lot of his party campaigning on this.
It was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats. And some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work.
That's right. If you care about accountability for a trafficking ring, you're doing the work of the Democrats, apparently, and Trump doesn't want your support. This is another post from Truth Social where Trump says that it's a scam we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, despite him being one of the people heavily trafficking in this, and saying my past supporters have bought into this hook, line, and sinker. Clearly saying, if you care about the release of the Epstein files, you're not a real supporter of Trump anymore. You're a past supporter. Saying about his own supporters, let these weaklings continue because I don't want their support anymore. This obviously felt like a huge betrayal to a lot of the people who have supported Trump and expected him to come through on this promise. The last thing most of them were holding on to was the idea of a special prosecutor who could go into the Epstein case and try to get some transparency. In fact, it was reported that Donald Trump was okay with appointing a special prosecutor. This was according to John Solomon, who claimed this in an interview.
Any prompting, without me even asking yet, he says, I also think if that has a special prosecutor, that prosecutor should just look at anything credible about Jeffrey Epstein, and let's get this resolved. Let's get the American people the most transparent. Now, what does that mean? If there's a special prosecutor, this gets out of Pam Bondi's hands, it goes to an independent person. They look at it, they release what they can about it, and they tell the American people whatever the grand jury can squeeze out of it.
Now, this had many people saying, oh, this is great news. This will bring accountability, transparency. Here's Benny Johnson talking about it.
There's been a dramatic change in approach. Very powerful people inside the administration are pushing for a special counsel, full press briefings on Epstein findings, and so on. And this is because of our voices that cannot be ignored.
Right. Voices that cannot be ignored, except they were just today by Caroline Leavitt, who says Trump is not in favor of a special prosecutor at all. It's not going to happen.
The president said that. Of course, this is classic West Palm Beach, man. That shit done, man. That shit over with. Over with. Bam, God. Over with. What y'all seeing is real power, man. Over with. That shit gone. Fuck your kids. That's what? Welcome to West Palm Beach. Man, y'all boys don't even know. Nigga, this shit is dirty out here, man. This shit is savage. This shit is disgusting, my boy.
He floated the idea of a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. Can you confirm that? And has he asked the Attorney General to do this, to appoint a special prosecutor to look it over?
Well, the idea was from someone in the media to the president. The president would not recommend a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. That's how he feels. And as for his discussions with the Attorney General, I'm not sure.
Wow. That's how he feels. He feels like, we don't need more transparency. We don't need more accountability. We need to hush this up, okay? Trump has also responded when asked that he has nothing to do with a special investigation.
President Trump, would you consider appointing a special counsel to investigate the Jeffrey Epstein investigation?
I have nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it, guys. We've already done the investigation, and you should be pleased with what we put out. This was also said by Trump himself, the idea that we've already given you everything credible.
She says, I gave you all the credible information. And if she finds any more credible information, she'll give that too. What more can she do than that?
Right. She's given us all the credible information. If she finds more, she will give us more. But we already got it. If you remember, Pam Bondi already gave us the phase 1, which just included a lot of already released information. At the time, they called this the first phase, which sheds light on Epstein's extensive network. An extensive network that now includes 2 people, Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Really extensive. Kash Patel, by the way, quoted saying there will be no cover-ups, no missing documents, except, of course, all the incredible information, right? You have credible information, you have incredible information that they're gonna hide from us, I guess. With these influencers who had the binder, I guess this is part of the Democrat hoax. Can't understand why they would do that. Now, as a rewind though, what has really the FBI DOJ released that wasn't already public? Well, one of the biggest things was the tape, right? The tape of the prison cell, which actually wasn't the prison cell. It was the common area, which couldn't see Epstein's cell, which definitively proves everything. Except not only did it not show Epstein's cell, not only were there blind spots in the tape, we also had a Wired report showing that it was a modified file. This was something that went into Premiere Pro, was saved multiple times. We don't know what was changed, if anything. But now we have new reporting from Wired saying that Epstein's prison video had nearly 3 minutes cut out, which started at the, quote, missing minute. So I ask again, what credible information has really been released? The only thing that's been released is, ironically, not credible. Not only is this great for people like Prince Andrew, who's now traveling around, guess who else this is great for? Ghislaine Maxwell, who's now appealing her whole conviction on the grounds that the government already gave her a non-prosecution agreement, or more specifically, Epstein a non-prosecution agreement. And we have this statement from Ghislaine Maxwell's family and her counsel of record saying, quote, "I'd be surprised if President Trump knew his lawyers were asking the Supreme Court to let the government break a deal. Judges have previously dismissed her lawyers' arguments that she should have never been prosecuted because of a weird agreement drafted more than 15 years ago. But now, of course, this is at play again, given all the recent revelations and the fact that the family seems pretty directly to be appealing to Trump, which is an interesting turn of events if Maxwell has anything on him or someone else in power. They actually say explicitly he's the ultimate deal maker, and I'm sure he'd agree when the United States gives its word, it should keep it. With all the talk about who's being prosecuted and who isn't, it's especially unfair that Ghislaine Maxwell remains in prison based on a promise that the U.S. government made and broke. This itself raises large concerns, given that Trump not only seems to want the Epstein thing to go away, but also that he's wished Maxwell well many times.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well. Good luck. Let them prove somebody was guilty.
So pretty clearly, the president seems to be extending his sympathies to Maxwell in very bizarre terms when asked, hey, do you think this person's going to turn in rich and powerful people? Well, we wish her well. So that worries me, when then the Maxwell family and her lawyer are pretty explicitly appealing to the president, who wished her well, saying, hey, this whole thing should be barred because of Epstein's former agreement with the prosecutors. Speaking of prosecutors, by the way, Maureen Comey was just fired by the DOJ, with many speculating this is an order that comes from the top, from Trump. Now, Maureen was the prosecutor in the Diddy, Epstein, and Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell cases, with some people saying the timing is too coincidental with the whole Epstein investigation. Coincidental with the whole Epstein and Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell cases, with some people saying the timing is too coincidental with the whole Epstein investigation. Ghislaine Maxwell cases, with some people saying the timing is too coincidental with the whole Epstein investigation and Maureen Comey maybe knowing something about it. The other way to look at this is, of course, that Trump has hated. Look at this is, of course, the Epstein investigation and Maureen Comey maybe knowing something about it. The other way to look at this is, of course, that Trump has hated James Comey, her father, for a very long time. James Comey, of course, doesn't seem to like Trump too much. He recently published a photo of Seychelles saying 8647, referring to the 47th president of the United States. So it could be the case this is a revenge firing. It could be over the handling of the Diddy trial. Or, again, it could be over the Epstein-Maxwell cases. But on the whole, what we all want is just it's especially unfair that Ghislaine Maxwell remains in prison based on a promise that the U.S. government made and broke. This itself raises large concerns given that Trump not only seems to want the Epstein thing to go away, but also that he's wished Maxwell well many times.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well. Good luck. Let them prove somebody was guilty.
So pretty clearly, the president seems to be extending his sympathies to Maxwell in very bizarre terms when asked, hey, do you think this person's going to turn in rich and powerful people? Well, we wish her well. So that worries me when then the Maxwell family and her lawyer are pretty explicitly appealing to the president, who wished her well, saying, hey, this whole thing should be barred because of Epstein's former agreement with the prosecutors. Speaking of prosecutors, by the way, Maureen Comey was just fired by the DOJ, with many speculating this is an order that comes from the top, from Trump. Now, Maureen was the prosecutor in the Diddy, Epstein, and Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell cases, with some people saying the timing is too coincidental with the whole Epstein investigation and Maureen Comey maybe knowing something about it. The other way to look at this is, of course, that Trump has hated James Comey, her father, for a very long time. James Comey, of course, doesn't seem to like Trump too much. He recently published a photo of Seychelles saying 8647, referring to the 47th president of the United States. So it could be the case this is a revenge firing. It could be over the handling of the Diddy trial. Or, again, it could be over the Epstein-Maxwell cases. But on the whole, what we all want is just more accountability, more transparency. We want these people to release the full files. So on that, I'm going to explore a couple leads that maybe will pan out. There's been a push by the House to have the Epstein files released. This has now become a bipartisan supported thing. Previously, it was voted against, but now they're trying to force a vote. I've kind of stated that I'm not sure that this is going to get somewhere. I hope it does, though, just to be clear. I hope they release it. I think it's been covered up for so long. I guess I'm so cynical about it. But I guess in the words of Trump, I wish them well. We wish the House well in trying to release it. I will say for the millionth time, this is not a left or right issue. This is the people versus the There's also this report from the New York Times about the $1.5 billion they're trying to chase down. This was handled by JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank. These both paid fines for their involvement in moving money for Jeffrey Epstein. Here, the legislators are trying to actually chase down some of the funds. Notably, the New York Times reports that there was a huge suspicious activity report, also called a SAR, reviewed by the congressional team that was filed in late 2019 by JP Morgan for $1.1 billion. The report covered 4,700 transactions dating back to 2003, including payments to women from Belarus, Russia, Turkmenistan. Many of Epstein's victims included young women from Eastern European countries. So I will say, as many people have, follow the money is a great idea in a case like this, where Jeffrey Epstein had a bunch of mysterious wealth. Unfortunately, I have to say it's an uphill battle when the most powerful person in America, Donald Trump, seems dead set on closing these files and trying to get it to all go away. And I also encourage people to be suspicious of when a president says something is a hoax, despite the fact he said for years there are powerful people implicated in these files. Even saying that he was going to be transparent, there was going to be a wave of accountability, only now they're covering it all up. They want you to trust them, and if you don't, you're stupid and or a weakling.
The MAGA fault line seems to be widening from a fracture into a Grand Canyon-sized chasm after President Trump called the very MAGA supporters who reelected him stupid and foolish for refusing his demand to back off the Epstein files. It was former Trump confidant Elon Musk who dragged conspiracies of an alleged secret Epstein client list back into the mainstream spotlight. He posted again overnight and reacted to the president's calling it all a hoax, a complete 180 to what he's been suggesting for years. And it is Musk's so-called free speech remake of X that is now feeding the theories and the MAGA divide because of them. Just listen to how some of the most vocal MAGA loyalists are now breaking with the president.
If you talk about this, I'm going to excommunicate you. Well, You're not the Pope, bro. I mean, you're not speaking from the throne ex cathedra.
Why'd they say there was thousands of hours of tapes of people doing horrible? Why'd they say that?
Right.
Didn't Pam Bondi say that?
I mean, we're getting flooded with thousands, hundreds of thousands of comments that are very unhappy about this. President Trump was elected primarily to go after the deep state. We want to go after the deep state.
It seems like you think your base is stupid. That's how I feel. I feel like Trump thinks his base is stupid.
Bringing this into the public arena was President Trump. That's a matter of historic record.
Okay, much to discuss. Here with me now, MSNBC's senior enterprise reporter Brandy Zadrozny and former Republican congressman from Florida, Carlos Curbelo. Guys, we just heard Benny Johnson say it there. Trump himself fueled the Epstein controversy. Brandy, how's the base now reacting to President Trump calling them foolish and stupid for falling into what he said a Democratic hoax?
They are not happy. They are so not happy. I've never seen them like this, actually. The closest I've seen, and some people have even been referencing it, is that they feel like it's when Hillary Clinton called them the basket of deplorables during the campaign. It was really just talking about their character, who they were. And for these MAGA faithful, they are fighting this ultimate fight between good and evil, behind a deep state, behind a cabal. I mean, these are the sort of ways that the GOP and the MAGA base have sort of formed who they are as a group. And so for Trump now to call them stupid, to call them weaklings, it's just been a real slap in the face. And you see a come to Jesus moment like you just showed. I was watching Alex Jones way too late last night, and I've never seen this before. I don't know how you come back from that, and neither do these people. I think they're sort of trying to figure out how they can possibly ever trust Trump again. He's done it before. Let's see if he gets out of this somehow. But right now, it's cratered the movement.
I think he's always thought if he says it, eventually people will believe it. So he's tried to create their reality by just saying something over and over and over again. And yet you have even Steve Bannon saying, quote, the real question is about who really governs us. If this cover-up continues, 10% of the MAGA base will walk away, lose them now, and we lose 40 seats in 2026 and the presidency in 2028. And that's a quote from Steve Bannon. Congressman, is the situation really this dire, do you think? Who would these angry MAGA loyalists turn to?
It's a very serious situation, Anna, for a couple reasons. Number one, I do think that the MAGA base will follow Trump on policy wherever he goes. The reason this is different is because this contradicts who Donald Trump has shown his base to be since he erupted into the political scene in 2015. Donald Trump has been the ultimate anti-establishment figure. And in this case, for the first time, his base perceives that he is defending the establishment, that he isn't the guy out there saying, let's declassify everything. For example, let's get to the bottom of the whole JFK mystery, right? And the assassination. Let's put all the information out there. That's who Donald Trump has always been. That's why his base is so passionate, because they feel that he has always been on their side and not on the side of the establishment and the elites. So the truth is they don't really have anyone else to turn to for now. We know Elon Musk would like to fill that role, but that seems like it would be a stretch for the base to get there. But the reason this matters, Anna, is because we're living at a time in our politics where both parties rely heavily on their bases to get elected. You don't hear too many politicians reaching out toward the center. If the Republican base, the MAGA base, is depressed, that is very bad news for Republicans heading into next year's midterms.
Congressman, are you concerned of what President Trump might do to divert attention to try to rally and regain his base?
Well, we know that the president knows how to manipulate the masses. He knows how to distract people. And certainly yesterday he tried to make some big news on Jay Powell and what he might do there. And we know he's very good at that. But it just
MAGA is eating itself alive over Jeffrey Epstein. So is Donald Trump himself for dessert.
All right, so there is fallout over the Jeffrey Epstein files to talk about. President Trump says the whole thing is a hoax. His own supporters are some of the loudest voices in the room asking the files be released. And for that, President Trump is slamming those supporters. So a Justice Department review of the case found Epstein did not have a client list, even though in February, President Trump's own attorney general, who we just saw, they're getting off board.
Hi there. Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Ryan Nobles in Washington, where the Trump administration is struggling to move on from the MAGA world backlash over its decision not to release more files tied to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The president's frustration with his own supporters over their embrace of conspiracy theories that he and other top White House officials helped promote was on again today on full display, as his White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters that he's not in favor of a special prosecutor on the matter, as she sought to explain his most recent assertion the Epstein files were a hoax.
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about.
I don't want it. But Trump's efforts to blame Democrats for a so-called hoax have also largely gone ignored by his own base. In an interview yesterday, the president seemed to acknowledge that problem.
All my supporters want to talk about is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. It's unbelievable. It's a disgrace, and I remember every one of these guys. Yeah. They're my supporters, and they love it, and they love it, and it's all induced by the Democrats.
It comes as the White House has pushed a number of issues and taken a number of actions that typically animate the president's base, including the Department of Justice firing Maureen Comey, apparently with no explanation. She was a top DOJ prosecutor on the Epstein case. She's also the daughter of one of Trump's favorite political punching bags, former FBI Director James Comey. The president is also trying to steer focus toward economic issues, amplifying his war of words against Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell in a push to force him to lower interest rates to juice the economy. The president's allies on Capitol Hill, meanwhile, are all in the final stages of legislation to slash $9 billion in funding for foreign aid and public broadcasting, another one of the president's perceived foes. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Interior Secretary Doug Burgum are zeroing in on immigration issues with a visit to Alcatraz, that original Alcatraz, amid the president's push to reopen the long dormant prison as a symbol of law and order. And to wash it all down, the president also posting that Coca-Cola will once again be made with real cane sugar as artificial dyes and sweeteners remain a target of the Make America Healthy Again crowd. Now, whether any of these will move the MAGA base away from its fascination with the Epstein case remains to be seen. Joining me now to break all of this down is our NBC News team, senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake, senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor, and Justice reporter Ryan Riley. Okay, Garrett, let's start with you. The White House made an announcement about the president's health today. We are going to get into that in a little bit. But first, what's the level of frustration in the White House right now over this Epstein story?
It's significant, Ryan, and it really comes from the top down. You've heard it from the president, this idea that they believe there's so many other things that his base should be talking about, so many other accomplishments they think people should be focused on. And despite their best efforts, they've not been able to move folks off of the Epstein conspiracies and their Epstein theories, whether it's by providing other storylines, other conspiracies, like the former president's use of the auto pen, whether it's been with the president cajoling some of these right-wing influencers or lambasting them on Truth Social or in Oval Office sprays. Nothing has quite worked, and I think they're just trying to basically keep their head down and power through this. I do detect a hint of growing frustration with the Attorney General and the Department of Justice here. That press briefing that just concluded a little while ago here, you saw Caroline Leavitt really pushing off almost all of these questions onto the DOJ, saying it's incumbent upon them to release more information. It's incumbent upon them to explain the firing of Maureen Comey. And we've heard next to nothing from the DOJ on any of those fronts so far.
And Sahil, on the other side of this, it seems like the president is not getting the support that you'd expect from his congressional allies. Usually they are the first ones to back him up. Are they surprised that this is still dominating their base's attention?
I don't know about surprise, Ryan, but it is a very jarring split screen up here where the Republican-led Congress is racking up multi-billion-dollar and multi-trillion-dollar legislative victories for President Trump while out.
Joining us now, NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles, New York Times Chief White House correspondent, and MSNBC political analyst Peter Baker, and MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin. Ryan, I'm not quite sure I've ever seen anything quite like what happened in the Judiciary Committee.
We'll go to Bovee.
At least address my point of order. I have the right to do that by the rules of this committee. If you want to overrule the rules of committee, then do so. But this is not in any way in order. You are obligated to address a point of order according to the rules of this committee. You could overrule me by a Senate vote. You're violating your own rules. The parliamentarian has been clear about this. The parliamentarian has been clear. You could overrule the point of order I'm doing, but you have to follow the precedents and procedures of this committee. This is outrageous that you're not allowing senators to have their fair say before a controversial nominee is being done. This is unbelievable. This is unjust. This is wrong. It is the further deterioration of this committee's integrity. With a person like this, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of hearing from Chris Coons? From hearing from one of my colleagues? From hearing from Adam Schiff? What is the fear here? Have at least the decency to have a vote on my point of order regarding Rule 4. I have respect for you, Mr. Chairman. We've served together for more than a decade, but this is outrageous. This is unacceptable. This is wrong. It is wrong. And why? Why? What is the rush to take another half hour to listen to people? What is the rush? What are we afraid of, Mr. Chairman? What are we afraid of? I do not understand why senators can't debate a nominee as we've done when both sides have been in the majority to take the time. What is the thing that you are so afraid of from hearing from my Senate colleagues? This is a violation of the precedents of this committee. We're not trying some stunt here to try to force a 2-hour rule like you all did when you were in the minority. We just want to be heard before a controversial vote. Sir, this is wrong, and you know it. You are a person of integrity. How could you be doing this? At least have a vote on my point of order. Sir, with all appeals to your decency, with all appeals to your integrity, with all appeals to past your going by the mandates
Now
of
we'll
the
call the
parliamentarian.
roll on Kyle
This is
Dudek.
unbelievable. There's a way to do this. If you want to force this through, if you want to ram this through, there's a way to do it in accordance to the rules as spelled out by the parliamentarian. It is simple. It is clear. There's a pathway to achieve what you're trying to achieve. But, sir, this lacks decency. It lacks decorum. It shows that you do not want to simply hear from your colleagues. This is absolutely wrong. And, sir, this is to me one of those moments where we are not showing common respect for each other on both sides. I have sat here when we were in the majority and listened to my colleagues' arguments, listened to their passionate statements, and then we voted. This is not that. This is us simply trying to rush through one of the most controversial nominees we've had under this presidential administration. Sir, God bless America. You are a good man. You are a decent man. Why are you doing this? What is Donald Trump saying to you that are making you do something which is violating the decorum of this committee, the rules of this committee, the decency and the respect that we have each other to at least hear each other out?
Nomination.
I've sat through so many long speeches of my colleagues, heard their objections, listened with sincerity to try to see what their arguments are. But we are not doing that. Sir, this is wrong, and you know it. There are some people on this committee who are the least firebrand people, and they've walked out. Some of the least controversial people in the Senate, some of the people that worked the hardest to find bipartisan common ground have just walked out of this committee. And you don't even seem to care, but I know you do. I know your heart, Senator Grassley. This is wrong. I know the kind of person you are, and you know this is wrong. This is not necessary. What is another half an hour to allow senators to be heard? It's what the Constitution mandates. It's the ideals of the United States Senate. The world's most deliberative body should take a decent amount of time to deliberate. But here we're not doing that. Here we are jamming this through with some sense of false urgency. It's one thing not to hear from whistleblowers. It's another thing not to hold another hearing. But to not even allow my colleagues to have their moment to speak against this justice is just wrong. And I know you know this. I know you know this. The only time this rule has ever been overturned by both parties was done when one minority was trying to pull some stunt to stop the committee from hearing. This is not that. This is not the 2-hour rule. This is a basic element of the ideals of this committee, sir. It is the basic understanding of having debate and deliberation. It's a basic understanding of we can listen to each other even if we disagree, that we should have time and space and a forum to listen. Sir, this is just wrong in every way. It is wrong in every single way. This is an abuse of power. It's an undermining of the well-being and the integrity of this Senate and this committee that I for so long, I've been so honored to be a part of. This is wrong, sir, and I join with my colleagues in leaving. This is absolutely wrong. And sir, this is to me one of those moments where we are not showing common respect for each other on both sides. I have sat here when we were in the majority and listened to my colleagues' arguments, listened to their passionate statements, and then we voted. This is not that. This is us simply trying to rush through one of the most controversial nominees we've had under this presidential administration. Sir, God bless America. You are a good man. You are a decent man. Why are you doing this? What is Donald Trump saying to you that are making you do something which is violating the decorum?
Y'all are completely right. We need to give these niggas term limits, bro. Term limits, nigga. You have 8 years, man. After that, man, it's time for your ass to get the hell out of here, bro. Like, damn, man. 80-year-olds, man. This is crazy, man. We'll never be free. I swear to God. It's funny. I mean, it's not even funny, bro. But it's funny that the fact that we'll never be fucking free. Okay. Fuck up my whole freaking game. Got a bad bitch from Philippines. I'm a short shit she ever seen. I'm a king surrounded by some queens. I'm a king straight out of Queen. Had my first threesome overseas. Got a bad bitch from Philippines. I'm a short shit you never seen. I'm a king surrounded by some queen. Oh, just what I was looking for. Oh yeah, we won this one. This game over. This game is over. Yeah, I gotta keep this. Alright, fuck it. Yeah, I'll keep this. Alright, let's go. I mean, I guess we don't really need that gun. We need that. We do need some health. Yeah, we need that. So this is what we'll do. We'll drop this. Fuck it, we don't need it that much. Just when I said we don't need it. Ooh, is that the gun I think? Oh my god, yes. Oh my god, man. Fuck right. Is that another pair of gloves? think I'm good though. I think I'm good. Okay. God damn it. Oh my God. It's not the exploding one. I thought it was the exploding one. That's why. I'm trying to shoot around him to explode before. It's not the exploding one. Alright, fuck it. Got a bad bitch from Philippines. I'm a soul shit she never seen. I'm a queen, mother queen. I'm a queen, straight out of Queens. Got my first taste of motion. What did I say? Never again. What did I fucking say, man? What did I fucking say? And I freaking still did it, man. I would have
President Trump
easily killed that fucking guy, bro. Damn. Whatever, man. That was my win, fam. That was literally my win. I was gonna freaking kill them. 10 eliminations, bro. Got a bad bitch from Philippines. I'm a soul sick she never seen. I'm a king surrounded by some queens.